Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with the Deacons this morning. And it's wonderful to just welcome you on our morning program. You know, we're hearing so much about the budget 2014. What kind of budget is it? Is it an election gimmick budget? Is it really a budget for the people? What are the people saying? You know, and you know, always Uncle D loves to bring in Pope Francis and what Pope Francis, what Pope Francis loves to say. And I have his thoughts today. And here his thoughts today, but I think we want to extend it to even Trinidad and Tobago. Here's Pope Francis. In Europe first, and now in America, and I want to use Trinidad and Tobago and add that on, elected men have taken it upon themselves to indebt their people to create an atmosphere of dependency. And why? For their own selfish need to increase their own personal power. Do you think that is relevant in Trinidad and Tobago? I mean, this is Pope Francis talking about Europe, and he's saying, and now in America, and could we just sort of juxtapose that to Trinidad and Tobago and maybe even some of our West Indian and Caribbean nations? Let me read that again for you. In Europe and now in America, elected men and women have taken it upon themselves to indebt their people, to create an atmosphere of dependency. And why? For their own selfish need to increase their own personal power. Pope Francis on men and power in the world. Today it is truly my pleasure to welcome on the Breakfast with the Deacons show, Leela Ramdeen, Chair
Deacon.
of our Social Justice Commission.
Morning.
Welcome to, and thank you for being here on Breakfast with the Deacons.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is this the first time you're doing
Yes, yes.
Well, it can't be the last time. Leela, what do you think about Pope Francis' statement, and is it relevant at all to our Trinidad and Tobago and the world at large?
We are so fortunate in our church that we have had popes, not only Pope Francis, but all our popes throughout history have been spot on in identifying the issues. What are the current issues in our world that affect people, that affect human development? And Pope Francis has nailed it, because that is a problem. When you find, for instance, the deficit in America is 101%, in parts of the world 134%. Our deficit, although it's not as bad, we have a deficit of $78.4 billion. Each year it's about 6-7 billion we're going into deficit. Now, deficit for economists, deficit budgets are not bad. If you're going to invest and get a return for your investment, and if you have a plan to balance the budget at some stage. Now, Minister Hawaii, in his presentation of the budget this year, said that by 2016, the government hopes to balance the budget, and that he's reduced the deficit by 1% this year. The challenge we have is like last year and in many other years before, not only this administration, but previous administration. We had a budget of 60 billion, and then during the year, they go back to Parliament for another 4 billion. So you then have more deficits. So is the figure we're given this year of 64.66 billion, is it going to stop there with that huge deficit, or are they going to go back during the year for more? So Pope Francis is right. We need to keep tabs on what those people who are elected to govern us, how they spend the money, and where all this deficit is going, and is it in the interest of the people? And there are two things there. There's the deficit, and also there's the debt of the nation. The debt of the nation, when we keep adding up all the debt, that's a burden. That's a burden on the neck, round the necks of the future generation.
Now let me bowl you a googly here today, right? And hopefully we could get some googlies. I don't think we have any googly bowlers today, playing against the Bangladeshis. But let me bowl you this dusra. Transparency International, and I believe it's that organization, says that 20% of the budget goes where? into fraud and corruption.
That's the problem. And that is what I said in Catholic News this weekend, that corruption steals from the purse of the people. The economy should work for the people. The resources of the nation belong to us. And when there's corruption, and we know, everybody, I mean, I can use the example of live sport. Everybody know over $400 million were plowed into that. One person got 34 million without lifting a finger to teach the maths and English or whatever his company was contracted to do. Now he's saying it's the government fault, they didn't put things in place. But how could 2 tranches of 17 million be paid up front for somebody to do that when TTRF, we run the home in Anthony Pantin Reintegration Center, and this administration stopped the funds we were given in the last administration because they said we did, the team didn't follow procedures. And that was with people going there to see that the work was being done, and one person get 34 million. No, so they're not checks and balances. Minister Howe, I was asked this on TV, what checks and balances have been put in place since live sport to ensure that there's effective monitoring and evaluation so that the people will know the money is being spent effectively and efficiently. One of the challenges we have is in the global competitive index, for instance, we have gone down 126 out of 144.
That is madness.
Pay and production section, 126, we're way down. Do you know why? There are four areas where we're not doing well in terms of people wanting to come and invest and do business. Bureaucracy, corruption, poor work ethic, and crime and theft. Corruption these 4 appear almost every year in different order. Corruption is not going away, and yet each year what we need to do is to have, they used to call it social impact analysis. You could talk about cost-benefit analysis, whatever it is. How are we monitoring and evaluating the monies we give to different ministries? How has it been spent? Is there anybody looking at whether we got value for money? Look at CPEP, for instance. When CPEP got a 30 million increase, nearly 600 million they're getting this year, 30 million increase from last year. CPEP was supposed to be a transitionary kind of program where you go, you spend a few hours doing the work, excellent work people do, cleaning the place, etc. I think about 12,000 people involved in that. But you're supposed to then spend a portion of your time being trained. There is a huge skills gap here where labor, the companies are asking for certain skills that we haven't developed. So CPEP, somehow it's gone off the rail. So and that dimension isn't there.
Is it doing what it was first set out to do?
No. And so when you look at the fact that we're boasting about GATE, for instance.
But hold on. Yeah. The question is, why has it gone off the rails? Is it that those people are coming and getting the 4-hour jobs in the morning and then running off to another job? They're
very entrepreneurial. You think they're stupid? They're going off to do, drive taxi, hairdressing, whatever. So they're doing other jobs, and the training dimension, the training part hasn't been, so we're not developing their skills. I want to know if anybody's looked at how many people have moved on from CPEP. They were supposed to move on from there to go into industry, to do skilled work. How many have moved on, or is it the same old? And then there's the issue about the corruption among some of the contractors who, ghost gangs, etc. And it's the same with URP.
But that has been going on, Leela, from time immemorial.
For years, not only this administration. And somehow we can't, if we're supposed to be looking at what Pope Benedict, Pope Emeritus Benedict talked about, promoting integral human development, then we cannot continue allowing people just to remain on CPEP and URP without looking at a way forward for them. I am not saying we don't. There's a fellow called a Harvard scholar, Trini scholar, Sita Hall, who wrote that there'll always be a need for welfare states. Yes, because the Catholic Church believed that if if we promote the basic foundation of a society is the dignity of the human person and the sanctity of life. And if we believe that, then we will believe that you have to have safety nets,
So
the welfare. But the problem is we have over 68, nearly 100. We now bring in the World Bank to help us look at rationalizing it, to look at abuse that overlap. There is so much abuse. We now bring in the World Bank. Thank God, at least there is time
but
to see if we're wasting money.
So they're coming in as an oversight.
Yes.
But we know.
Yes.
We know. So
Yes.
does it mean that we don't have the political will? Or is it like Pope Francis says here, that we want to create an atmosphere of dependency and why? For their own selfish needs to increase their own personal power.
Totally, because you see, if you have, instead of teaching a man to fish, the church knows we don't want to give a man a fish every day. Teach him to fish so we empower them. We have to move from dependency to empowerment. Too often we have our people in a dependency syndrome because of programs like that. 68 social programs. How many of those people really can lift themselves? You know, Martin Luther King said, we have a duty to lift our bruised and battered brothers and sisters to a higher, more noble place. We will not do that with programs that keep them down. We will not do that with programs that do not develop the inherent God-given talent that they have. And that's where we are as a country. And the sad thing is we have so many educated people. Why has it taken us so long to bring, why did we need the World Bank to come in anyhow? We have enough intelligent people in Trinidad and Tobago to be able to analyze those programs and to see, are they working? Are we getting value for money? How is that lifting people?
Leela.
You see, justice is more than handouts.
Leela.
Justice is more than giving people handouts.
Voices?
That's
Where are
Yes.
the voices?
Yes.
Okay? Where are the voices that would be those voices of light?
Yes, yes.
Right?
That's what we're supposed to be. The Catholics, we're supposed, you know, CCSJ's mission talk about us being a fearless and unified voice. Catholics are supposed to speak out. And not, you know, Pope Benedict said in God is love. The church cannot and should not replace the state.
Right.
Yet, at the same time, she cannot and must not remain on the sidelines in the fight for justice. We have to play our part through rational arguments, not prayer and action. So yes, we pray, but we have to speak out. I get some good cuss for what I said that was published in Catholic News.
What did you say in the Catholic News?
And of course it means that
what
those
did you
who
say?
were...
Let me hear.
All I said in Catholic News is the government must empower people.
Okay.
That we have to stop the corruption, that we have to ensure that we move people to a different level, and that that when we sharing the resources of the nations for everybody, there should be distributive justice. What is wrong with that? That is what our church teaches us.
Listen. We have a $1 billion Brian Lara Stadium.
Yes.
For the last 5 years, we can't get it off the ground.
No.
Now you're hearing it's built on banned soil.
And not only that, the steel they use, we know that. So that is really, we're wasting. The amount of, it's not part of the corruption thing is wastage. We have wasted all that money, and that's not this administration who started that, to be fair.
Yeah.
So each administration, we need to look at what has happened. You know, I was hearing all the towers, etc. Now they're rushing because of OSHA and all the industrial dispute.
Mr. Duke is giving them some pressure.
To put people in those buildings that were built, their ministries. Do you know when this administration took over, they did not complete the outfitting of those buildings. Now, of course, it will cost a lot more. So we have to move from a situation where each administration feels it has to diss what went before and start afresh. We are here to build the common good.
Yeah.
And the common good is to create conditions so that everybody will realize his own potential.
I think some of these politicians are building the private good and not the common good.
Well, that's another issue, yes. But
what is the church? What is the church saying?
Yeah, well, you know, I remember when the U.S. bishops, for instance, in 2012, when they wrote to every single representative in the House of Representatives, all the congressmen, etc. And there's this fellow called Tavis, what is his name? Tavis Smiley, a U.S. host, who rightly said that budgets are moral documents. budgets allocate the resources on the basis of the values and the priorities of those who are making the decision, our elected people. Now, this is what the U.S. bishop said to each representative in Congress. Every budget decision should be assessed by whether it protects or threatens human life and dignity. A central moral measure of any budget proposal is how it affects the least of these, Matthew 25. But affecting the least of these doesn't mean you just give a handout. It means you create a framework for monitoring and evaluation that will help us to see, are we lifting these people, or are they going to just depend on, look at the mums with the 500 baby grant.
Let me hear your take on that.
Yes, everybody asked me, Leela, do you feel that they shouldn't have given it? I have no problem with a $500 baby grant, but it cannot stop there. How are we, what programs, what plans do we have to strengthen family life? One of the basic social ills we have in Trinidad and Tobago is the disintegration of family life. And if we are to strengthen family life, it takes more than $500 for Pampers and milk. We're looking at now, after saying that, they're saying that these people, will, all the women or the fathers who earn $3,000 or less will have access to this, but they must go to parenting classes. That's what they said for CPEP, that they must go to these programs, and nothing happened. So on the one hand, you're saying, yes, it's a good idea, have parenting classes. There are currently, there's a national parenting program that exists. I think it's only 1,000 persons it's reached. The Catholic Church has a parenting program, as you know, Family Life Commission. And what we need to do is, if you have put on a program and people don't come, you have to go in the communities where the people are. It's no use saying, you know, we put it on and people didn't come.
Go to them. Meet them where they are.
Meet people. Mission is where people live, where they are. And the government and us as church, we have to be there in our parishes, in our communities, reaching out to people, not just say, here's 500 for Pampers and milk. Good gosh.
But, so, should then the government empower more the NGOs who are working in the field and say, look, you all are experts here, we want you all. Be our ambassadors, or you know, be that catalyst for us to go out and work in these communities, because that's not really our business.
No, listen, when you look at the number of NGOs that exist and all the good work that's being done, the Catholic Church alone is covering so many areas. I'm on the board of Credo Foundation for the Holy Faith Sisters, run 4 homes for street children. CCSJ has Mary Care Center under our wing. Eternal Light is running it. Debbie DeRose, they won a national award. We say no abortion, but we say we'll help you have your baby. Marian House, Living Water Community, all the different services that are being run by the Catholic Church. But
and that's just the Catholic Church.
That's just the Catholic Church. But they make you jump through hoops while wastage and corruption being ignored.
While 400 and something gone to like sport.
Yes, I'm not saying there shouldn't be hoops that you can't be accountable, etc. But accountability, transparency, and ethics and integrity, these are principles that are Catholic, and they are principles that really should be embedded in our governance. Good governance require that we get rid of corruption, that we have transparent processes. Look at procurement legislation. And how could you pay $7 million to pull up a fire truck that is worth $2 million? Where is our thinking? That is wastage. That is wasting the people's money.
No, my question is, you sure that's wastage or that's corruption?
Well, both.
Is that wastage or corruption? That should be the question.
But you see, we live in the culture that's developed. We have developed a culture in Trinidad and Tobago where anything goes, and it's them people, and the next morning there'll be something else on the front page, and we forget.
We will forget about it.
We don't protest. We have no stickability in terms of looking at the major issues. And as Catholic, I'm urging all Catholics really to come out there and to make sure that our voices are heard. The church is saying that we have to, you know, although the church doesn't promote solutions, St. John Paul II said this in 2003, although the church doesn't propose solutions in the public or technical sphere, it must, however, indicate the motivations and guidance offered in the gospel in order to illuminate the search for responses and solutions. We're supposed to be transforming society based on gospel values. We're supposed to be infusing gospel values. What are the gospel values? Our third pastoral priority is, about morals and values, spiritual and moral values in our society. We know, you just have to look at Carnival and how people behave, that our morals and values are going down the drain. And it is never too late. Jesus came so we may have life and have it abundantly. We're the ones to shine that light on the budget making process, to shine that light when we find that, the dishing out of handouts in the budget is not good enough. We have to look at what we do beyond that. The deficit, how are we going to make sure that they do balance by 2016? But of course, that's coming after an election.
Hold on.
That's coming shortly after.
Do we have a forum
Yes.
of Catholic economists,
Yes.
of Catholic
We need
social
that.
scientists who can speak
Yeah.
as a voice,
Yes.
right, and represent the voiceless?
Well,
Do we have that Catholic
we don't,
forum?
when CCSJ held 2 sessions
Right.
on the business ethics, based on Cardinal Turkson's document on the vocation of the business leader. That document, I would urge everyone, business people or not, to Google it. The vocation of the business leader. It focuses on central social teachings of the church about how business should operate, about what should be the priority, about goods and services that and a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Quite often we don't look at the need for workers to give a fair day's productivity. We're increasing the pensions, we're increasing the amount of money people get in a whole range of ways. But are we looking at productivity? Are we looking at what will take our country forward? That is what the IDB and IMF are saying. We need to look at increasing productivity. But you will not increase productivity if the culture is, I can go see Pep for a few hours and then I can go and do something else. I either can do my own thing or nothing at all.
I want to challenge people outside there. You've heard us just, talk a little bit about the budget, about Trinidad and Tobago society. Can we form a Catholic voice? I want you people outside there who are looking in on Breakfast with the Deacons, I want you all to think about it. It just jumped up at me and I asked Leela, could we form a Catholic voice so that we can speak about these sides?
Yes.
We can empower the voiceless. We can represent the people. And I think that the Catholic community is such a strong and powerful community. And we have Jesus' moral and spiritual values. Regenerating the moral and spiritual values. That is our third synod priority for this year. And we need a Catholic voice to be shouting in the wilderness. Like St. John the Baptist, shouting in the wilderness and telling everybody, and listen, I really believe this, repent.
Yes.
Repent.
Look at food production, for instance. Do you know we still have about a $4 billion import bill?
Yes.
And of course, agriculture get less than $2 billion of the budget.
And say that again, how much money?
About $4 billion. $4 billion import bill. And agriculture got 1.328 billion. Last year they got 1.324. So look at the slight increase. Transport, which is an abomination here, they've reduced the amount for transport. 1.984 billion. Last year was 2.324. So instead of increasing so that we'll have better transport system, innovation. One of the challenges we have is that the UNDP and the UN,
what have they said?
They have said that we're now high income. We're high, Mr. Hawaii, Honorable Hawaii said that we're now in a high income group. UNDP says TT is 36 out of 186 in terms of Human Development Index. But we know the reality. Even Minister Tiwari said it's a two-edged sword. So you're proud you're high up there, but you know why we're so high? They changed the weightings. People don't know that. So although it seems as though
Yeah.
we're high income, that affects us because we won't be able to draw on the kind of grants internationally that we used to be able to.
Yeah.
But you walk the streets of Trinidad and
And you see
Tobago
the poverty.
and you see the poverty,
You see the
and
poverty.
you know the deprivation.
Yeah.
So saying we're high income development, and you know what the development the index is. They look at your the access to knowledge, your life expectancy, and the kind of income. Access to knowledge is critical. If you look at, they look at how many years of education a person might have. But let's look at that. From every minister knows, and Minister Howard said that's too. When you look at 18,000 children taking SCA, by the time they reach CXC, only 12,000.
Right.
6,000 have dropped out.
Yeah.
So when you look at access to knowledge,
So
they may
hold on,
have
hold on.
access, but the
We're
reality
talking
is
about
they have dropped out.
6,000
Every year dropping
every year.
out. Where they going? Into the arms of the gangs. Those are issues that affect us. Those are social justice issues. Where those 6,000, who cares? Long ago they used to have what they call the school board, man and woman, to go knocking on the door to see where you are. What is happening to those 6,000? Do you know the latest figures in yesterday's paper about the number, the 3,700 and so prisoners? Right? The highest number is between 18 and 25. When they leave school just before between SCA and CXC, and they idle. As they say, the devil have work for idle hands, you know.
Hold on, Lida. Did they work out, right, out of that 3,000 and something?
Yeah.
How many of them never made it to CXC level?
They haven't done that analysis.
Because that would be interesting.
That would be interesting because when I look at the fact that nearly 2,000 of them are between 18 and 25, and if you look at up to 30 years old, it's nearly 3,000. No, yeah, 2,000, nearly 2,500 up to 30. So the majority of them are really youngsters, which means society is failing them. And when they commit crime, restorative justice says we must rehabilitate people. Israel Khan's son, Daniel Khan, who is the inspector of prisons, found that 79% of those who reoffend within 3 to 5 years end up back inside. So are we rehabilitating people? At the Anthony Pantin Reintegration Center, Clive Belgrave, my vice chair, and others are working there. And the people who come to us, former inmates, many of them we can't take because they are drug addicts, which means while they were in prison, nobody rehabilitated them from drugs. They were getting drugs in prison.
Listen, they have cell phones in prison.
Yes,
they
everything.
have marijuana in prison.
Everything.
You have cocaine in prison. And listen,
But
I
Derek,
don't think it's coming through relatives and friends.
Yes, but my concern is these youngsters. I love children. I have none of my own, so I love everybody else's children. The fact that we are, at SCA, we always praise the top 200. Devil take the hindmost. When in fact there are no intervention strategies. I'm the chair of a group called the Education Discussion Group. We met on Saturday, and we all pulling our hair out, looking at the fact that we're building new schools, putting in air condition. When the air condition goes down, we don't have enough technicians to fix them. You saw TV last night, the school in Couva. Children are missing out on the education. One mother rightly says, when my child goes astray, who going to help me mind him afterwards?
Hey, everybody outside there, we need a Catholic voice.
Yes.
We need people who've been built on solid foundation, built on rock, to be able to speak out and be the voice for the voiceless. Breakfast with the Deacons is just sort of, giving you a little pinch of the salt. We're flavoring the food. We want you to keep thinking. We want you to want more. We want to continue this discussion. This half an hour that we have on Breakfast with Deacons has just flown by so quickly.
Finished?
We're nearly done. But, and I want to talk about the parish that I have just come from. We've just launched an incredible initiative where we have a help desk.
All right.
We have a help desk project, and what we're doing is for free. Twice a week, we're inviting the parish community, not only the Catholics, but everybody else. Do you know the services that are being offered?
Excellent.
Do you know the services that are being offered to the government? The housing assistance, the household items, the medical equipment, the domestic health, the dietary grant, the clothing grant, the funeral grant, the special child grant, the pharmaceutical grant, the house rent, the school supplies grant, the education grant, all of the general assistance grants and emergency situations. Many people within Trinidad and Tobago don't realize the social services that they can avail themselves on. And so we started that initiative.
Good.
So I want to thank you all for watching on Breakfast with Deacons. I hope it whet your appetite. I hope you are called to join this Catholic voice that would speak out for those who can't speak for themselves. This is Deacon Derek Walcott on Breakfast with the Deacons. Thank you for tuning in. See you on Thursday. Leela, it's been a pleasure. You have to come back. You have to come back.
Thank you.
This has been awesome.